coaches or other fans. Um, and so that's spilled over into sports. I mean, some of the chants at MSU football games where the students swear. Um, when I was in school, it was the "less filling tastes great" cheer. I mean, that was the chant that the student section did back and forth. The old Miller Lite commercial um, with Bubba Smith. So, just, I mean, it's a reflection of a change in society in general. It's not just sports. You see it in movies and television. Just the disrespect that seems to be acceptable now, and almost expected. If you don't act that way, then what's wrong with you?
I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but can you speak on the issue of money in sports and how it's changed in your lifetime?
Yeah, so much of professional sports, especially, but even at the college level, but professional sports is driven by corporate interests. Now that's been impacted recently by by the economic downturn in America. For example, you've seen it with the Buick Open, which is a golf tournament in Flint, Michigan, or Grand Blanc. This year was the last year for that. Buick is no longer going to sponsor that. So you're seeing a lot of the corporate sponsorships go away. But, it used to be the Detroit Tigers played in Tiger Stadium. Now they play in Comerica Park. It's very rare to have a stadium that isn't named for some corporation. Even college stadiums have corporate sponsorship throughout. You watch a game now, it's that's a timeout is sponsored by somebody, or that's another first down brought to you by some corporate entity. So that's been a huge change in sports. It truly is business, even at the collegiate level. So that's the biggest change I've seen with the money, and then obviously the player salaries. I mean, it's crazy when a left-handed relief pitcher who's 2-7 with a 4.3 ERA can make $3.7 million a year. It's crazy.
How has the role of sports changed over your lifetime, both for you and society? I know you kind of explained some of that in some of these other questions.
The role of sports?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still, I mean, it plays a big role. I think the difference is that so much of sport now is driven by money, whether it's the internet sites that you can subscribe to follow a college team, or the fantasy leagues for professional sports, be it football or baseball. So much is made of stuff besides just the game. So there still is. I think sports still plays a role in bringing a community together. Or I mean, you saw that with, for example, this year in Detroit with Michigan State's basketball team playing in the Final Four. Had a huge impact on the state of Michigan. I mean, you had 8,000 people at a mall in either Troy or Novi to root on the Michigan State basketball team. So there still is that passion that people feel and connection to different things, but it just isn't the same, especially at the professional level, because players don't stay committed to the same team. There isn't the loyalty from the players or from management in professional sports anymore.
All right, now we're going to get a little more class specific. These are some issues we've been talking about throughout these 6 weeks in our class. Discuss how you feel about the issue of race in sports.
Well, there's no question that sports has played a significant role in the breaking of the color barriers, whether it was Jackie Robinson in baseball or, um, for example, Joe Gilliam was the first black quarterback in the NFL, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 70s. Um, it changed people's perception about what black athletes could or could not do. Um, Certainly with baseball, you had a lot of Puerto Rican, Hispanic. Now you've got Japanese players playing in the major leagues. The NBA has seen a shift from all white teams basically in the 50s and 60s to being integrated with African American players to a point where the league was significantly African American. Now you're starting to see a lot of European players come into the league. So sports, I think, you go back to the 1968 Olympics when Tommy Carlos, I think his name was, and I can't remember. It was a U.S. track team that the guys won the gold medal and they raised their fist. The controversy that created, but sports, if it has done nothing else, it's kept the issue or the discussion about race in the forefront because you can't ignore it. A guy stands up to bat, he's either white or black or Hispanic, so it's kept the issue of race something that people could talk about. Certainly has brought up issues of, especially for white fans who, would cheer for a black player on their team, but wouldn't want black people living in their neighborhood. So that's always that discussion. So it creates an avenue for, I think, America to have discussion about race on a different level.
All right, you talked about some of the more historic things. We've kind of been going over that in class, such as the desegregation of sports. How do you feel about race today, such as issues that are brought up like there's only a few African American coaches in the NFL, and that can be said the same for quarterbacks. That's always been said, kind of like those are the smarter, you need to be smarter to be able to do that. How do you feel about that issue?
It's a tough question. There's no question in my mind that historically, whites have privilege in America, and that privilege doesn't change when you put on a uniform. The privilege exists in the corporate world. The privilege exists pretty much all throughout society.